You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. Welcome to Movies Are Life. I'm your host, Nathan Chandler, and today we're traveling back in time to when I was in high school and discussing the 1999 film 10 Things I Hate About You, which is number 44 on the 50 best rom-coms list. There's nothing to hate about today's returning guest. Oh, welcome in, Tara. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
So Tara joined me on the episode about A League of Their Own this past summer, one of the first episodes that we did. And I have to say, I think that was one of my favorites, mainly because I think that your passion came out about that movie. I don't know if you're wearing a t-shirt today with 10 Things I Hate About You, but
I couldn't find one.
but I'm figuring the same passion exists for this movie.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, like me, some people may have not seen this movie for a while. So as a quick refresher, 10 Things I Hate About You came out in 1999 and is an American teen romantic comedy film directed by Gil Junger and stars Julia Stiles, Heath Ledger, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Larissa Oleynik.
Mm-hmm.
The screenplay is a modernization of William Shakespeare's comedy, The Taming of the Shrew, retold in a late 1999's American high school setting. In the story, new student Cameron, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, is smitten with Bianca Oleynik, and in order to get around her father's strict rules on dating, attempts to get bad boy Patrick, played by Heath Ledger, to date Bianca's ill-tempered sister, Kat, Julia Stiles. That sounds real confusing, but if you watch the movie, it's pretty easy to follow. But released on March 31st, 10 Things I Hate About You grossed over $60 million and received generally positive reviews from critics. It had breakthrough roles for Stiles, Ledger, and Gordon-Levitt, all of whom were nominated for various teen-oriented awards. The film has since developed a cult following and is considered a classic in the teen film genre. 10 years later, it was adapted into a television series of the same title, which ran for 20 episodes and featured Larry Miller reprising his role as the dad, Walter Stratford. I slightly remember that TV show being out. Did you watch that?
I actually don't at all. Nor did I watch it. But I do know the dad. I mean, I know he's in a lot of stuff, but no, I didn't watch it.
Yeah, I think from my memory, I might be wrong, but it was definitely one of those when ABC Family existed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the network that it was on. But when I had forgotten that, and when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, I mean, 20 episodes. I guess that's nothing to, shake your head at.
No.
So I wonder how good it is today. But so Tara, I've got to ask you, why do you love this movie so much?
Okay, so like you, it was in high school whenever it came out, and I think just having watched Alex Mack and being a huge fan of Alex Mack, which was Larissa Oleynik or whatever how you say it, was in it, and then I was a big fan of Andrew Keegan, who plays Joey Dahmer, and I liked him in Camp Nowhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Also a great movie. And beyond the music, it was really like the clothing, because that was really when Delia's was like really popular with the magazine where you order clothes.
Oh, okay.
And so I just really liked all the clothes they wore. But more than anything, Kat Stratford's car, that red, I don't remember what it was called, but I loved it so much that when I turned 16, I begged my parents to get me a pink Volvo. It was sort of like it. And they actually tried to find, I'm sorry, my dog is in the background. They actually tried to find a Volvo out there, like an old one. And then we were going to spray paint it pink. They weren't successful. I ended up getting a 94 maroon Camry and I called her Bessie, but it was a good dream I had. It just never followed through. But it was also fun because, I mean, it has a lot of really great one-liners that I think brings you back to high school. Even when we watched it last night, the one-liners kind of make you feel like you're in high school. And
yes.
To me, somewhat like the stereotypical characters they had, that was my high school. And so it was just kind of brings you back. So like whenever you're 15, 16 and having that teenage angst, I think that's why I like it so much.
Yeah. I definitely watching this. I do think it was probably high school since I saw this movie. And so, but I'm immediately I started looking up all the actors to see the ages they were when they made this. And sure enough, I was pretty much the same age as a lot of these actors. I mean, this is like you said, in 1999, I was a junior at the time, and I think part of the charm of this movie is probably the fact that I mean, some of the ages might skew a little bit, but it does feel like you're watching high school students
Hmm.
versus somebody in their upper 20s trying to pass off as 18. And I think the joy of I mean, I don't think the bloopers were really that funny at the end, but I think they're there to show you that how much this cast was probably enjoying themselves and having a good time. You could kind of sense that. I don't know if you got that feeling at
Oh
all.
yeah, and actually, last night was the first time I saw the bloopers. I'd never watched it all the way through the bloopers. But I read a little bit on IMDb, and it says that this cast actually truly enjoyed being together, and that they meshed really well. And I think that you can see that with the way the characters interacted, and they actually had chemistry between everybody, even the characters that weren't main characters. So yeah, I think that especially in these movies when they have chemistry, it really makes, or really in any movie, it makes a difference.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's funny you mentioned Alex Mack and then uh, uh
Camp
sorry.
Nowhere.
Oh yeah, Camp Nowhere because it's funny. It had been so long since I've seen the movie. I always remember Julia Stiles, Heath Ledger, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. So when Alex Mack popped up on screen, I was like, "Hey, I know her."
Hmm.
And the same with Andrew Key and like his face. I just whatever stuff they were in at that time, like super memorable. So that was really funny. So, but I mean, it's understandable why Ledger Styles and Joseph Gordon-Levitt are the names that we remember. So,
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah. As far as the main performances, it's funny. This is the second movie that we've covered with Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it. We did 500 Days of Summer, and it was really funny because I don't know. Have you seen that movie
Hmm.
before? Yeah,
Hmm.
it's funny. I was like, I think it's almost the same character. He's just in 500 Days of Summer in his mid 20s.
Yeah, they, well, a lot of the times in these movies they get typecast and it continues on with them
Hmm.
because of the way you look or how you carry yourself, and so he's always just going to be that, you know, guy from behind that's going to clean up everything and be the sweet guy. And you never really see him in any. Well, actually, I've never seen him in any roles that are like daring or drama.
Yeah, he's branched off in his later work. He's been in he's worked with Christopher Nolan a lot and has done some darker
Oh.
stuff there. There was actually I had kind of forgotten about this. There was a meme that was getting passed around because Heath Ledger played the Joker in the
Hmm.
Dark Knight movies, and then Joseph Gordon-Levitt later played who was essentially Robin. And so anyway, some memes were circling around of like who would have ever thought that these two actors from this movie would end up,
Hmm.
you know, I mean, Heath Ledger having an Oscar even. So, but yeah, I knew this was a movie that Heath Ledger was kind of always known for or whatever like that. And watching it this time, I mean, I completely could see why he had such a,
But yeah, it was his
a
first.
career after this.
Yeah, it was his first English movie, is what I had read. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a breakout role for him, and then I think it was a breakout role for well, Julia Stiles.
Yeah.
It says that that dancing scene on the
Hmm.
table, which I think is amazing, is what got her the Save the Last Dance
Yeah.
role, which is kind
Yeah.
of funny. But Allison Janney, there just isn't enough of her in this movie. It really kind of introduces who she is and as an actor and how like versatile she is, which kind of like I love her. She reminds me a lot of Cara Burnett, like
Yeah.
her comedy style. But yeah, I think we have to mention Allison Janney because she was amazing.
Yeah, no, I had written down that the supporting cast here is just lots of like, oh, I recognize that person,
Hmm.
yeah, especially we talked about Larry Miller as the dad, but also Gabrielle Union as her
Hmm.
friend. This probably had to be one of her first movies, and even he's the I forget what class it is, maybe the theater teacher, but David Leisure. But I was like, where did I recognize? And he
Oh
was on
yeah,
that
yeah.
sitcom Empty Nest.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you remember that, but anyway, there's just a lot of recognizable faces and like, oh yeah, type of thing. But yeah, Allison Janney, I think I'm not sure exactly when The West Wing came out, but it had to be around the same time as
Hmm.
this. So yeah, it's definitely like you can see her starting to spread her wings, so to
Hmm.
speak. She's pretty memorable in this. So you mentioned the table scene. You haven't ever danced on any tables like that before, have you?
Sadly, I have, but in an appropriate manner.
Yeah,
But
I
probably
mean,
not at a
when it's
party. But like at, Joe's Crab Shack, places like that. Yes, I did dance on tables. But those are you're invited to dance on the tables, and my mom was there, so it wasn't too bad.
okay. Well, as long as you had that parental
Yeah,
support
I
there,
did. I did.
Well, also, it's kind of funny as watching this. I couldn't help but think, we covered A League of Their Own, which pretty much, I mean, it's all about sister dynamics, and now we have this other movie that's playing with some sister dynamics. Is that one of the reasons you connect to this movie?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you have my sister and I are completely opposite, and I've said that in the last podcast. But I see probably my sister being more, well, she was always more put together and mature than I was, even though I'm older. And so I think um, I can see both of us, dual roles on that with depending on the scene. So yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I did appreciate about this movie was, I mean, this definitely becomes, Ledger and Styles' story. They come in the forefront, but I think it does a really good job of giving all the characters their own arcs and
Mhm.
something that you can follow, and they all pay off in some way.
Yeah.
I think we're not just watching one budding romance, but we're kind of watching,
Hmm.
multiple arcs and stuff like that. And so, even as I guess you could say juvenile, but it's set in high school, I think it's very relatable, especially about with the with the crushes that they have and that sort
Yeah.
of thing. So, had it been a while since you'd seen this movie?
So this is always the one movie that when streaming services came out, we got away with our DVD player, and we obviously got away with our VCR. I always wanted to watch, and you could never watch it. And you could for a while you couldn't find it anywhere. It was not
Mhm.
any streaming services. So I always had it on like my list of whenever it comes on whatever streaming service. So I've seen it like once or twice, probably in the last few years. Jake and I tried it. My husband, for those of you all who are listening, we try to watch some of those movies, two or three probably a year, just because it's always fun to kind of watch and then just recall like how fun it was, how funny they were, but then also like how nowadays you can't really watch those
Yeah, yeah,
because um, it's inappropriate or pretty stereotypical of certain types of people. But I do think this one does a good job of being more satirical in the stereotypes of white people, and so I think it's pretty funny how the whole basis of her being a privileged with Mr. Morgan, who is played by Daryl Mitchell, I think.
yeah.
How he kind of makes fun of her about her oppression, and I think it's pretty funny. So I think they do a pretty good job of making fun of, um, even though it does say like empowers women, it really kind of makes
Yeah,
fun of women. But I think it's
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah. I do think he was he generally seemed a little harsh with her
Hmm.
throughout the whole movie, but yeah, I thought one thing that did I think for it's I mean obviously the fashion and the music kind of dates it. It does seem like, but I think the story in itself seems pretty relevant.
Hmm.
Like I think a teenager could watch it now and connect to a lot of things. I thought one thing that did make me think that this was a movie from the 90s. I don't know why, but the party scene, and not so much them partying, but
Yes.
how much actual alcohol that they showed them, like not drinking, but I guess I'm saying the actual labels. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, it was like legitimate brands. It wasn't like a made up brand of beer or whatever like that. I don't know if you noticed that
So
at
throughout the
all.
whole movie, in all the scenes, there's a lot of labels. Like anywhere they are in like a room, there's like Suave deodorant and like all these different brands that some of them aren't even around anymore. Suave
Yeah.
is, but it's secret deodorant. And throughout the whole movie, there was like a lot of brands. And nowadays, you see more fake brands just because of the cost or advertising. But yes, the party scene felt so like college, high school, because there was a lot going on. And There was a lot of scenes that had a lot of things going on in the background that you probably didn't notice first few times watching, but we found really funny because there was like some country guys in the back like drinking beer, and they were just so like, it just made me think of high school because
Yes.
we partied out in fields. In fact, I was telling Tay today about cow tipping back in the day when we would go partying in back. I said backroading, but we weren't. I didn't tell him exactly what happened in backroading, but I did talk about cow tipping, and he thought that was pretty crazy. For you, those of you all don't know, cow tipping is whenever you go into a field and you tip over the cows that are sleeping, and then you run away. And that's what we did in high school to have fun. And that's made me the person I am today.
I have to quote Tommy Boy. Don't tell me you've never heard of cow tipping before.
I've actually never heard that quote, and I've watched that 1,000 times.
Oh, what? Oh,
I
crazy. So how big is Ardmore? How
I
many
think it's like
people?
30,000, but it's like,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely smaller than the hometown that I grew up in. And this won't shock you, Tara, I think, but I didn't go to a lot of parties when I was in high school, but the parties that I did go to, I mean, I felt like this, like nailed it like perfectly.
Oh,
Like
uh-huh.
the cowboy thing, like you were saying. Yeah. Like, yeah, perfectly. But we watched Can't Hardly Wait not too long ago. But even in that movie, they all had like red Solo cups. Like, so you never actually saw really like what they were drinking, and that to me, whatever, I don't know why, it was just a little to see them with the actual natty light in their hands. Kind of made me laugh. But I like the fact that they advertised the party as like a free beer party, but yeah, everybody seemed to be bringing beer to it. But anyway.
I wrote down the invitation scene is always like one of my favorites because the way they did it was really cool. How they filmed it, where the camera was throwing all of the invitations, and it just like down the multiple things of stairs, and it just like flows down. I always just think it's like a setting up like what's going to happen.
Yeah, I like too that, one thing I think they do well with painting Ledger's character as the bad boy, but he is almost a little too handsome for his own good. But I do like how they use the wood shop to kind of build his mystique, so to speak, because I remember that as well. Like, I don't know, there was something about the wood shop guys.
Did you have wood shop?
Yeah.
We did not have wood shop.
Oh, I mean, once again, a surprise. I was not in said class.
Okay.
But yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, you kind of kept an eye out for some of the guys in that class.
But like also, I love scenes where it's like, okay, I totally did that when you dissected a frog. I don't know if you dissected a frog, but we did.
Yeah, no.
And it just
Yeah.
like I could just smell like the formaldehyde when I like watched that scene, and just like, all the juices that came squirted in your eyes. It was gross.
Yeah. I know I keep going back to the party scene, but we were laughing at the all the like actual suit jackets that people seem to wear. I can say that wasn't happening. I don't think. I think when I was in high school.
No, and speaking of like, so David Crum, the guy who plays Michael, who I don't remember his name throughout the whole thing. I don't even know if they said his name. Cameron's friend.
Oh yeah.
Do you know how to say his last name? Krumholtzer? I don't know. Anyways, he's in a lot of like random stuff too.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think they ever said his name throughout the movie.
Maybe.
But he was wearing a suit jacket, and all these characters, the side characters, I think really make the comedy of the movie, and they just all like you were saying, they all have they gave him a lot of like rich character where they could play upon, which I think makes it really funny.
Yeah. I also enjoyed the ska band in the prom scene. Not so much even for the music, but how when the guys who are playing the brass instruments aren't playing them, the little dance moves that they do. It's like, I don't think you can get any more white than that.
No. And do they even have ska bands anymore?
No, not really.
I feel like you liked ska bands back in the day.
I did a little bit, yes. I did. I mean, I've always people are a little surprised. I always liked punk, ska, kind of hard rock type of stuff. But
Oh,
yeah, so anyway,
did you
but
know any of the bands in there? Because Jake seemed to know both of them.
oh yeah, I mean, I had heard of Letters from Cleo before.
Uh-huh.
I know I looked at what the other band was, but I forgot now. But yeah, so I was a real big fan of this band called Five Iron Frenzy. I don't know if you've
Oh.
heard of them
I
before.
remember the T-shirt, like the
Yeah,
concert T-shirt. For some
yeah,
reason, I don't know.
yeah.
People always wear that.
Yeah, so they still make some music, and it's still pretty good. So anyway, it's not like as hardcore as like Mighty Mighty Boss Tones type of ska
Mm,
music, but
okay, yeah.
it's a little bit more ska like rock type of music. So anyway, I'm really making myself sound really cool
You
through
are
this
really cool.
episode.
Well, I'm talking about cow tipping, so here we are. So you do know that this movie is based on the Shakespearean play,
Yes,
um, The Taming of the Shrew,
right.
which all the characters are kind of named off it. But there also was another play that was based off that called Kiss Me Kate, which I don't think it was ever on Broadway. It was like an off-Broadway show. I was actually in that.
Oh,
It was a play in the park one summer, but it was called Kiss Me Kate. And so I think that's also another reason why I like this movie,
oh
because
yeah,
I mean, the basis of it is the same. It's just in a Shakespearean genre, which they allude to Shakespeare a lot in here in the movie, which I think is
yes.
really cool.
Yeah, I like that they're kind of, so to speak, giving an ode to the
Mhm.
source material. Yeah, because not too long ago on the podcast we covered "She's the Man," and I had no idea that was, you know, loosely based off a Shakespeare play. And
I didn't
it,
know that either.
yeah, but yeah, it did. It didn't give as much credit to that as this movie does.
Mhm.
So, well, you talked about the quotes in this movie, and I do think probably out of all the rom-coms that we covered, maybe this and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is probably kind of neck and neck in quotes. But yeah, what are some of your favorites?
I definitely think, let's see, my insurance doesn't cover PMS. And then there's Nigel with the brie. I don't know why I think that is so funny, but I've always thought that was hilarious. And then you actually see Nigel carrying the brie and then all the people coming in. Let's see, I wrote down, keep it in your pouch, which is what Miss Perky said to Heath Ledger's character. And let's see, kissing is what keeps me up in my eyeballs and placenta every day, from the dad. And I like my Skechers, but I love my Prada bag. I want you, I need you, oh baby, oh baby.
Well, maybe you're not afraid of me, but I'm sure you've thought about me naked, huh?
Am I that transparent? I want you. I need you. Oh, baby. Oh, baby.
That delivery is really, really
Oh.
funny.
And like right before the fight, when Andrew Keegan goes, fight, that is
Oh.
very much like a high school, and which led to a conversation of like high school fights, like when we would watch them, and Jake was like, we were laughing about how guys would fight, and then like the next minute they were like best friends. And when girls fought, they were not best friends afterward, and it would be a long while before they ever got along, or if ever.
Yeah, I was about to say you probably still hate that person.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
So me personally, oh yeah, for sure.
uh, very, very subtle, but I like how Gordon Levitt's character is so mad at Bianca, and they're in the car, kind of fighting, and then she kisses him, and how quickly he just goes, "And I'm back in the game."
Mhm.
Yeah,
I had that written down. You
yeah,
have to say it like that.
yeah, I like that moment just because that is true high school. You could totally like write a girl off that you had a crush on, but if like something happened in the positive, all was forgotten.
Yes.
I really like the dynamic between the dad and the two daughters here. Shocker, I know. So luckily I have the support of Whitney, so I'm not doing it alone. But I was kind of laughing to myself going like, now I don't wear slacks all the time like he seems to be wearing, but I couldn't help but think this is probably how my daughters view me.
Mhm. Do you have an
But
empathy belly at home that you're going to make them wear?
it's not a bad idea. No,
That's what it's called. It said empathy belly.
Empathy belly. I don't think I think guys should wear that as much as girls.
Yes, I agreed. Agreed.
Yeah, but I mean, the whole I can't do it justice, but just even when he's like, I'm down, I've got the 411, and you're not, and you're not going to go out and getting jiggy with some boy. I don't, don't care how dope his ride is. My mama
But I
didn't.
think that's so true of like a parent or a dad like trying to be cool and like,
Yeah,
Daddy, that is so
Got
not.
news for you. I'm down. I've got the 411, and you are not going out and getting jiggy with some boy. I don't care how dope his ride is.
Ugh!
My mama didn't raise no fool.
so like my dad still says the Budweiser commercial, you know, that what's that? 30 years, 25 years later, like he still says it. I'm like, Dad, that has been out for a moment. Like, quit saying that.
yeah. Well, I just connected because, like, I not that I do that, but I like, at least, I mean, they kind of humor me now, right? With my oldest being in middle school, but I get them to educate me on how to use it, you know, and so then I'll kind of purposely kind of like say it wrong so they get fed up or whatever. But yeah, slay's definitely a word right now.
For sure.
For sure. And I laugh because driving in Norman, there's some yard signs advertising a construction company, and they're called Slay Construction.
Oh,
Yeah. So I was like, man, I don't know if that's that company was just developed or they're just, you know.
right. Like who are they reaching to? Like, I don't know.
Right.
Weird.
Yeah. What about favorite scenes?
Oh man. I've always liked the scene where Kat backs into Joey's car. That also has a lot of really funny like one-liners because she's like, what is it, asshole day? And I think that we've all kind of felt that way about somebody who's just been a jerk. And I just think she just does it justice. It's kind of like, you know, Tawanda from Fried Green Tomatoes. It's just like sticking it to him. And so I like that scene. I think that's always pretty funny. But I also like the scene where she does the poem because it shows how like vulnerable she is and how, I mean, even though they fell in love in like 3 days,
Right.
what it seems like the movie, it just shows like, although she's putting on a front or she's like, you know, trying to be hard, that, you know, she kind of wears down. And I don't know, I just think that's a really cool scene and it's touching. And she's like really cried. And I've read that actually wasn't supposed to happen, but tears just came. So I think that's pretty cool. Party scene, of course, is great because there's just so much going on that you can kind of put see that yourself in that party or have been to a party like that. And I think that any scene with Alice and Janney is my favorite because it's just funny. It's dry humor, and I think some people probably don't get that. Actually, a lot of this movie has some dry humor in it that's maybe not for everybody, but I just always think it's hilarious. Like her writing her nasty novel, and on that like old laptop that's like super thick, and the way it clicks, it's like I remember those laptops.
Yeah.
And so I just, and your like school counselor, everyone's school counselor was crazy. I don't know about you, but all of my school counselors were nuts, except my high school one. She was pretty cool. But I think we've all had those teachers. And I told Jake too, there was a lot of times I got kicked out of class like she does because she's a little mouthy.
Shocker.
I mean, the teachers either loved me or they hated me. And the ones that hated me, I got kicked out a lot and had to be in the hall because I was mouthy, which is something like I don't recommend. Like I'm going to teach my kids not to be that way. But I really empathize and sympathize with her. So I liked all of Mr. Morgan's scenes because I think he's really funny. And the way he treated the students was a little harsh, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah. I think for sure. It's probably one of the most memorable, but just when Patrick sings "Can't Take My Eyes Off of You" in the soccer field or whatever like that. So, even though I knew that scene was coming up, it had been a while, and it does totally work. Never mind the logistics of how he got the marching band to play it and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's the movie star moment, like you can see like, oh yeah, this is just take that scene, and I can see why he did so much like after this movie. But yeah, and I can see how it does. It could have been. It could have been really bad, I think, in the wrong hands. But you
Mhm.
totally see how he wins over Kat in that moment.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
and so yeah, that even though I mean, it's probably been just as long since I've seen. I think it was Not Another Teen Movie.
Oh
Or
yeah,
there's
Janie's got a gun.
run, yeah. So yeah.
Movie musings.
What's one of your favorite Shakespeare plays? Since this movie is based on Taming of the Shrew.
Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, I, 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 I'm not the biggest scholar ever, but I know I've seen, his different plays. I mean, Hamlet and Macbeth come to mind, but
Mhm.
I mean, Romeo and Juliet's just classic.
I don't know if kids read them anymore, but I mean, we read them in high school. And Macbeth always they have some awesome, like, cool one-liners that you always kind of use, and they're used a lot. But Romeo and Juliet, I always volunteered to be every character when we read that freshman year. I'm sure you're surprised, but I think that they also did a really good job when they did the one that came out in like middle school or seventh grade, 1996, 97.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I love that play.
yeah. I think Shakespeare must have been having a moment. This is just now coming to me around this time because the movie with DiCaprio probably came out around this time. And then also I know Shakespeare in Love was in 98. So,
Mhm.
so I think,
And then
yeah,
they did O for Othello.
yeah, yeah.
It was Julia Stiles also in that?
Oh, and I think maybe.
I think she was. Um, and then I don't know, have they done anything like a reprise of Macbeth or Hamlet?
Recently, Joel Cohen did Macbeth with
Mhm.
Denzel Washington. And I really liked it a lot, but it's not gonna be for everybody. It's black and
Mhm.
white and it's very artsy.
Mhm.
So I mean, you can check it out. The good thing about it is about 5 minutes in, if you're gonna be in or out on
Right.
it. So yeah, it's on Apple TV. If you have that, you can watch
I'll
it.
check it out.
Yeah. So, I don't know why I'm asking you about this, but what are your general feelings about paintball? So there's a scene in here where they go at paintball. I think definitely, I know it still exists, but definitely another moment in time in the 90s where paintball was definitely a thing.
Right. So I've never been paintballing, and we actually talked about that last night. Um, I I wouldn't. I like Nerf guns and I like Nerf fighting. Paintballing, that was just because people had like bruises and like got hurt. And if you colored your hair, now I went to some paint parties in college, but if you colored your hair and you got paint in your hair, you just colored it, it's gonna stay in your hair for weeks. And so I wouldn't have been into it because I would have had like purple and blue hair like
I,
I did at other paint parties.
I bet Jake's had some paintball battles in his
Yes.
days.
Yes, he does. Yeah, he said he did that a lot. I mean, they had like people who had like fields, they would have like, paintball
Hmm.
field. But I think, youth groups used to do it. I just was never,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was never into that.
Yeah. So, if you get to know me, I can't stand paintball because one I'm not great at it, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's the root of it. But the main reason is that there's always one person if you went that was like way into it
Oh,
than the
mm-hmm.
other people and then
Mm-hmm.
took it way too far.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely I remember it was a guy's bachelor party. I didn't even know this other guy, and the game had stopped, and he
Mm-hmm.
continued to shoot me. I have never been so mad in my whole life, but but also I just have to give it. I think he listens sometimes, so I have to give a shout out to my cousin Greg and my friend Jeff. They really like paintball a lot. And Jeff's house, he had lots of woods behind him and stuff. And
Uh-huh.
Jeff had younger brothers. They used to send out his brothers in the woods, and they would basically hunt them down. So I always felt bad for those for those kids. So
But there is always like that one person in any like competitive physical game
yeah,
that just can't,
yeah.
they can't just, that they have to be too much.
Yeah, you're like, hey guys, let's go play frisbee golf, and you
Yeah.
go out, and there's this guy, and he's got the pack, and he's like leafing through all the frisbees, and it's like, I just have this one that I took
I'm
to the
just here to
beach this
play.
summer.
I'm here to play, have a good time. I don't want to break my leg.
um, uh, Definitely, we talked a lot about the party, but I think the prom plays a big part in this movie as well. But just a general question: did you enjoy your prom?
So weird fact about me, I don't like getting like super dolled up like that. Just kind of weird. It's really my personality. You would think I would. So no, my junior year, my boyfriend and I had just broken up. And I was really sad, but he went with me anyways. And we had a hypnotist, and I got hypnotized. Well, I pretended to get hypnotized, and I called him a really rude name in front of everybody. And my parents were there chaperoning. They were horrified. And then my senior year, I didn't even want to go, but we were all about to leave, and the teachers were like, "You guys can't leave yet." And I was like, "Okay, why?" Well, this is the first year that they had done prom king and queen in like 20 years at my school, and I got prom queen, and so
Oh,
I had to stay. And luckily, the guy who I just went with a friend my senior year, but another guy got it who was one of my really good friends, and we like danced, and his girlfriend was like super pissed. They're married now. I mean, he didn't he didn't like me or anything, but I didn't like that. We had to like everyone watched us dance, and it was
yeah,
weird.
yeah.
But the whole school voted, so I guess someone liked me. I don't know, but so yeah, I mean, my proms were somewhat memorable. I mean, our school did a big deal, so ours started at like 6, and they did the walkthrough, and ours didn't end till like 3 or 4 a.m.
Oh,
at the
wow.
school.
Oh,
And so we
wow.
would have like, yeah. And so like some schools do a lock-in. Like I know Ardmore High School, I didn't go there. They would do like a lock-in at the Y, and you couldn't leave
Yeah.
until the next morning. But yeah, we would have like people would win like TVs, computers, and all this stuff because they had like blackjack and all that stuff. And my grandma, my mamu, was one of the crap stealers, and she would stay up till like 3 a.m. Doing that at the prom. So our proms were like a really big deal for my school. So
Yeah. Did you have a live band like in this movie?
no, we always had a DJ.
Yeah. Yeah. My sad story is, and it's not completely sad because we had 3D school districts in Longview, so everybody like you just went to stuff. There were junior, senior proms, and
Mhm.
so it's not like, I mean, I even actually owned a tux because it was just cheaper
Oh.
than renting them and stuff
Mhm.
because there were so many events that we had. But like my specific high school prom, uh, the DJ got like double booked or something, so we had no music. So
Oh.
I remember my friend having to go get his CDs from his car, and they just played them over. It was so sad. Like, but we had lots. It was more so like everybody looked forward to the after parties
Yeah.
versus the actual like prom and the like auditorium type of thing, so
Yeah.
yeah, but
Did you guys? We had to do breathalyzers for every day, for every dance, which I like was never a problem because you know me, I love to dance, and I don't need any alcohol to dance and have a good time. So it was never a problem for me. But yeah, you had to like, they had to take 20 in at a time. You had to take your test in the room and then wait till the result. And then all these people got clever, and they're like hiding it in like perfume bottles in their purse. And they would like run to the bathroom. But I never understood that because I was too busy having a good time dancing.
yeah. Once again, not a big surprise. I did not go to parties with the having to take a breathalyzer, but I do remember I had lots of friends that were, even though I had not had tons of experience of being drunk, I could spot when somebody was drunk, and somehow they always got past our parents' chaperones, and so I think there was a lot of just blind eyes
Oh
to the
yeah.
whole
Hmm.
thing,
Hmm.
so anyway, I think we had a lot of Mean Girls mom going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, played by Amy Poehler. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
I have to ask, and I can bleep it. What did you call the ex-boyfriend? What name did you
I
use?
think I called him like in front of everybody. My parents were so mad at me. I was like,
Uh,
I was hypnotized. Because
So,
this, and I've been hypnotized twice before. Like once at before bid day in Stillwater. I also made a scene out there because I thought it would be funny. But some people like really acted like they were hypnotized, and the hypnotist told us like, we will know if you're playing. Well, they never caught me. I don't know how they didn't.
Rom-com rankings.
the romantic chemistry between the leads. So 5 hearts being the highest, 1 heart being the lowest. So I think, I think Cameron and Bianca is definitely a storyline here, but I was thinking, I mean, they're on the cover of, Patrick and Kat. So what would you give Patrick and Kat?
I'd give them a 4.
A 4? Okay.
4. Mm-hmm.
I actually, I gave them 5. I thought I kind of see it as like, would these people still be with each other like after this moment?
Mm-hmm.
And they really did seem like, 2 peas in a pod. I don't know, but in Cameron and Bianca, I thought they were really cute, but they were definitely maybe they're a little bit younger, right? Or she was like a sophomore or something in it. Yeah, but if they were still dating after high school, they definitely would break up their freshman year in college.
For
I
sure.
think.
For sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that he was just like a sympathy guy. Like maybe she just needed to like him because he was nice to her.
Yeah, I do like in the movie how she turns on Joey quickly when she
sees.
Yeah.
No, I do like that.
Yeah, I do like that. So I think a lesser movie would have kept Bianca in her shell, and they actually fleshed her character out a lot. And so I do like that moment. But yeah, I get it. I think maybe the only thing is like Kat was definitely going to school, and I think it was an all girls school as well.
Sarah Lawrence. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know what Patrick his future was going to be after high school, so I could see maybe that maybe dissolving after that. So, but
I did like that line where Cameron's like, "Is she a Katie Lang fan?" She's like, "No, she has a Jared Leto poster in her room." I don't know why I thought that was hilarious.
But I was, at that moment, but I was like, man, kudos to Jared Leto because he's still in the conversation of things. Like, so yeah. So you wouldn't have to explain to your kids who Jared Leto was, but Katie Lang, yes, you would have. So that's why I love the 90s. There's just certain styles of music and songs that it's like, what other world would this song been number one?
No, right.
Yeah. But okay, you mentioned him earlier, but the best friend, Michael. I know there's a lot of best friends, but he's definitely, I think he's the key supporting character in this one, just because he really drives the action. He drives his plot, and he's almost kind of the narrator almost throughout the whole thing. So what do you give
him?
Yeah.
I think I'd give him a 5 because I think he does a really good. I do. I like him because he's like he's not too eccentric, but also like
he's not too eccentric.
Yeah, I think I like him. I think he's funny.
I gave him 2.5 because moments I really thought he was funny, but I feel like I might be wrong here, but he seemed to be probably a little bit more of the seasoned actor than maybe a lot of this cast. So I think they were giving him a lot to do. But I think sometimes it really worked, but sometimes I was like, man, they're trying way too hard with this character. But
he was so good in Addams Family Values.
He was.
I think that's why I'm giving him a 5 because I love that movie so much.
I do like the scene though when they go to the bar and they're just walking trying to blend in, and he grabs the 8-ball from the other table. I did enjoy that movie, but overall I kind of thought he was a little much. Okay, the next Ian, I'm really interested to hear what you think about this as far as the soundtrack.
So the soundtrack, I don't think was that good. And there's one song that they played from, it's from Smash Mouth, but Smash Mouth wasn't singing it.
Yes.
On the song or on the movie, and I was like, well, that's weird. Why didn't they get Smash Mouth? I didn't think it was that great. However, the song that is always playing in Joey's car, the baby, 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 baby.
Yeah.
That's a great song, and that's like totally from that era. But I didn't notice it. Well, let me take that back. They do play Biggie.
Oh yeah,
So
they do. Now I will say it's not on the official soundtrack. So
oh
I think there's a lot of music in this movie that's not on the soundtrack because even at the very beginning, 1 week is on, by Bare
yeah.
Naked
Mhm.
Ladies is there. So I always remembered this soundtrack maybe mainly because I always think movies that start with numbers have a leg up because they're always going to be first. Well, there's no video stores anymore, but they would always be the first thing you saw if the wall
Mhm.
went. And so I think the same as far as like back, back in the day, I guess, with CDs and stuff like they were the first that you would see. But I don't know if Ardmore had at Hastings, but
Oh
Hastings was
yeah,
like,
Ardmore had Hastings. I
yeah,
love Hastings.
it was like if someone made a store for me, that was it.
Oh,
And so
I was just about to ask. I bet you spent lots of hours in Hastings.
yeah, once again, tracking back to maybe why I wasn't the coolest person in high school, but yeah, but you're laughing way too much there.
No, I
Uh,
no, because I love Hastings. Listen, Friday night when you go to Hastings or when you got money, like birthday money, to go get a CD and you'd spend that 1986 or 25, whatever, on your CD, and like the feeling of like opening that, well, trying to open a CD and then finally getting the CD and like looking, it was just amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Hastings, like in Longview growing up, definitely the parking lot was really big and it definitely had moments. There was definitely a window for like when the families went, but there was
Mhm.
just, I can't remember how late it stayed open, but it definitely got to like, it was kind of a party scene actually outside of
It was
Hastings.
like Empire Records.
Yeah. But yeah, so I remember seeing the 10 Things I Hate About You soundtrack like all the time. And I felt like that was like, what somebody had in their CD book
So
all
I
the
didn't
time.
have that one, and I have had like because Can't Hardly Wait's one of my favorite soundtracks,
Hmm.
and I love soundtracks, but I'd never had this one, which is weird because I love the movie so much.
Yeah. So I was running yesterday and I listened to the soundtrack. And the very beginning of the soundtrack, I mean, it's stellar. It actually starts off with the cover song at the end of this movie. I want
I want you to want me. I need you to. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. The Clash. Is it the Clash who originally did it? But it's lyrics from Cleo's song. And then there's a semisonic song that's great. Then a Sister Hazel song that's great. And so even as it was going, I was like,
Oh
oh yeah.
yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, this soundtrack is like really good. Well, it falls off really, really fast. So I ended up probably giving it um the good songs on there are I think really good. Then the other songs are really bad. So I give it 2.5.
Hmm.
But yeah, it totally felt like what a soundtrack was like when you would buy a soundtrack and there was like 4 killer songs on there and
Hmm.
the rest of them, there's a lot of weird funk music on this. Well, it's even like it would be a George Clinton song that you recognize that Snoop Dogg sampled from.
Hmm.
But so there's a couple like that, but it doesn't really flow with the rest of the music. So it's a little all over the place. So,
I do
but
like Sister Hazel.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, what would your rating be?
Oh,
A good one.
I'm gonna rank it a 3 because there was good songs, and then it wasn't that memorable of like other songs that I would have known, like you typically do in a like a movie soundtrack.
Yeah, yeah. So besides Can't Hardly Wait, I'm just curious, what was another favorite of yours?
Well, oh, the Sister Acts Sister Act 2 specifically.
Yeah.
And then Romeo and Juliet's soundtrack is
Oh yeah.
fabulous.
Yeah.
My sister and I used to play Sega. Space Jam as well. We'd play Sonic the Hedgehog, and we put it on mute, and we just listen to the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack, and then Space Jam. Michael is actually a really good soundtrack. I don't know if you remember that movie. I have a lot of random ones too. I don't know what are some of yours besides.
I remember having I can't say that it was the best soundtrack ever, but I remember having the Batman Forever
Oh.
soundtrack. It had a U2 song on there, and "Kiss from a Rose" by Seal was on that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think Romeo and Juliet that was definitely a big one in the day. Uh, if you want to go old school, The Big Chill is an amazing soundtrack. I know
Oh.
that's not from that era, but you should
Mhm.
check it out. You would
Mhm.
like it. Great
Okay,
songs on
well,
that. Have you
I'll
ever
check
seen
it
The Big Chill?
I don't. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it's the can't hardly wait for the boomer generation.
Mhm.
if if that's not a selling point, I don't know what is. But okay, so most rom-coms have a chase scene or a big declaration of love. So I mean, I would consider her poetry reading at the end of this kind of her declaration of love. I don't know if you see it differently, but what would you rate this scene or this category?
5 because it is different and it's not cheesy, and I feel like it's raw, and I feel like everyone's felt like that at some point in their life.
Okay. So I gave it 3 because I really liked the moment in the classroom where she does it,
Mhm.
and maybe it's a very symbolic of high school that you could do something like that and then everything would be okay. I feel like the movie concludes really fast after that point that
Mhm.
she reads it in the class, so that's why I give it 3. I like the initial moment, but then when they go out into the parking lot and kind of have all their back and forth, I think that part is a little weak.
Mm.
But but
I can agree with that.
yeah, but I can understand. Yeah, the 5. I've never written such a
I mean, I
emotional
haven't
thing.
either, but I felt like that in my head. I felt like that, in times when my heart was broken.
She's saying what I felt.
I relate to you.
Yeah. So rewatchability. What would you give it?
Well, 5 for sure, and I
Okay. Yeah.
stand by that.
Yeah. I'm there with you, even though it's been so long that I've seen it. I think if it's a movie that was on, I it it's very. I was talking about this movie actually with with some younger people when they had actually seen it before, and I don't want to steal her words, but she said that movie is so comfortable, and I thought that was a really good way of describing it. Of like, and she just meant in the sense of like I like laying back, totally like blanket on the couch, popcorn. Like I can totally, that's kind of almost like comfort food. It's just,
Mhm.
it's not a movie that's super, super deep. I probably overall wouldn't enjoy it maybe as many people have enjoyed it. This has kind of generated a cult like status behind it. I thought some things really worked. Other things, they were okay. Like I wouldn't say this was like my favorite rom-com ever,
Right.
but I do think throwing it on, just watch. I do think I could watch it at any point, no matter how I was feeling, and
Mhm.
I would enjoy it. So, um, yeah, enough comedic moments. At first I was wrestling with if this was a rom-com or was this more of a coming of age type of movie, but I think it's definitely a rom-com. Is it something, have you always seen it as a rom-com?
I don't know. I kind of think I'm stuck in between them just because the characters aren't always like the rom-coms are. It's like normally Kat's character, typically a female lead, is not as like angry
Yeah.
and mad, and so I think seeing her grow, seeing everyone grow a little
Yeah.
from like their stereotypical like entrance makes it feel a little more coming of age.
Yeah.
But also there is like romantic comedy, so I think it could fall in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. And I meant to say, Shakar, that I keep coming back to the father relationship with these two daughters, but I liked even though I'm never that extreme or even I wouldn't ever be that strict with my daughters, but I liked how real they were with one another
Mhm,
with the jokes and that back
mhm,
and forth and stuff like that. And
mhm.
even the moment at the end, it's a really sweet moment with like I forgot exactly what happens with the letter. Call it.
So
Does he say?
he says I paid for the first semester, or paid for whatever the entrance fee.
Yeah,
Uh, so yeah, no, I
yeah,
like that too.
yeah. Sweet little moment.
The
So,
only other thing I forgot to
oh yeah,
say,
yeah.
I was really surprised in the first 15, no, first 5 minutes, how many times they use the word bitch. I know you probably can't use that on here, but like they say it a lot. Where I was like, good Lord, like it was just a lot, and it was very like, er. I was
Yeah.
surprised about that.
Do you think, as far as where it lies, 44 seem high? Seems just right, just about right.
I'm gonna say yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think so.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. It's kind of, I think it generally just being a high school romance and
Mhm.
truly like a high school romance might make it, fall, maybe not seem as real,
Right.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So
Recommendations.
anything that you think people should be watching or listening to, or anything you guys have been enjoying?
So tried to start watching You, the
Yeah.
third season. It's terrible. Don't watch that. Um, but I did enjoy. It's on Paramount Plus where he's a therapist.
Shrinking.
Apple Shrinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is really good. Yeah, I'm watching that, and then I'm listening to Daisy and the Six because I want to
Oh yeah.
watch it, but I'm not going to watch it until I finish it.
Yeah. My recommendation, and I might, if I haven't lost credit for like how cool I was in high school, I'll lose it here. But we've been watching season 4, Love is Blind. Love is Blind is just always, I mean, I think it falls into the guilty pleasure at all. And I don't think it has tons of redeemable there's not much redeeming about it, but I do think for the experiment that it is, and behind every great reality show are great producers. I understand how the industry works and everything, but I do think this show versus like something like The Bachelor, especially when they get outside of the pods, I think it's fascinating. Like
Mhm.
throwing these two people together, and I won't lie, it's probably because Whitney and I connected talking to each other first. I mean, we had seen pictures and stuff like that of each other, but before we actually met in person. So, and maybe that's part of it, that I know that a connection could happen like that.
Mhm.
Now, all that said, the majority of like a lot of these shows, the majority of the relationships don't end up working, but there's always a couple that do. And I mean, especially this season, I won't say who, if anybody's watching it, but I mean, from the get go, you're like, yeah, they're perfect for each other. So it's really interesting. So, but I mean, it's totally a guilty pleasure. But I don't know. Have you ever watched it?
I think I watched the second season just because Whitney and some other people were talking about it, and I was like invested, but like I'm weird about reality shows with like a competition. I know that's not really a competition, but it kind of is.
Yeah,
It makes, I think, I don't know. I feel like it's just, I don't have time. Like
yeah,
I need to like see the point of it. So that's why like I love the first day of The Bachelor. I love the first few episodes of American Idol.
mhm,
But then after that, I can't. I don't know
yeah.
what it is.
The show is actually, and they've actually done this as a show. Like I think early on, the pod stuff was a lot more of the show. And
Mhm.
that's actually really not the most interesting stuff. I mean, there's some kind of like the crazy stuff that happens because of it, but
Mhm.
they've developed, kind of fleshed out more of the back end of like when they're having to live with each other, or actually, meeting each other's families and stuff. So,
Mhm.
uh, anyway, it's totally a show that like we throw on when we go to bed, and if we fall asleep, great, and we'll just pick
Yeah.
it up again.
Yeah.
There's not much depth to it. So anyway, well, next week we're gonna stay at the bottom of the list, and we're gonna cover the Gen Z hit To All the Boys That I've Loved Before. That's on Netflix. And this is the first film on this list that we've covered that was released exclusively on streaming. So did you see that movie?
I think yes, I did. I think so.
Yeah. So I saw it too. And even though it came out in 2018, I can't tell you a thing about it. So anyway, I'm real interested to see why maybe it made this list. So anyway, but I think I think there was a sequel to it, and I think Netflix is in May releasing a TV series based off
Oh.
of it. So I think there's a fan base for it. But our guest that's coming on, he seemed passionate about it. So I think maybe it's just a movie for kind of how like this movie is for us. Maybe,
Mhm.
maybe people connect to it or a little bit younger. So anyway, we'll see. So, but as always, check out moviesarelife.com for episodes, reviews, and more. And I've said this before, but it really help if people rate and follow us on your favorite streaming platforms. Even if you just listen to Spotify, Apple Podcast is free. Jump on there, find us, and just follow us. That really helps us grow our audience and gain more listeners. Thanks again, Tara, for coming on and doing this so late at night. So I always love talking movies and entertainment with you, but especially movies that I know you really enjoy.
Thanks for having me, and I'm just waiting to do Can't Hardly Wait with you, me, and Whitney and Jake. I'm just letting you know that.
92%, yo. Well, thanks again, and thanks again to everybody for listening.